I grew up in a very sheltered environment. I was very loved by my family. I was their youngest child and their only daughter. I grew up with a very privileged and close community. I was shown a lot of love and a lot of support and told I was smart and talented and that people were proud of me. People put a lot of faith in me. They had hope that I would grow up and be extremely successful. Generally, everything I was told about myself was positive. I grew up feeling like I was destined for all the great things I was told I had the ability to accomplish. But I came to realize one thing about the environment I grew up in. All I had surrounding me were people criticizing those who were different. It was like there were walls surrounding all of us. We were enclosed and safe, and everyone outside that wall was an enemy. Anyone who explored outside the walls, the barriers, the restrictions, they were bad. They were criticized. They were hated, put on the spot for being so strange and weird and unconventional. I had no understanding of anything outside the bubble I grew up in. Growing up, I never had the language to put together what I felt. I just felt, simply put, different. I felt discontent with who I was then and what people thought I was meant to be. I felt different from the other people my age. I never felt like I was liked. All of this was deeper than what I could understand at the time. And that led to a lot of confusion, a lot of doubt, a lot of self-hate, and a lot of hiding. I didn't know how to speak for myself, so I didn't. I realized I liked girls when I was 12. It was a great time. I was finally learning why I felt like I was so different, and I found the words I needed to help myself understand what I was feeling. But at the same time, it was scary. I grew up with people who, like me, were taught that being gay was wrong, sinful even. The people I grew up with echoed whatever the adults around us said, all their thoughts and opinions. We didn't know otherwise. We weren't exposed to anything else. I was at a point in my life where I was yearning to open up and be myself, find people who would love me for who I was. All I wanted was to finally express what I was feeling and try to find someone out there that understood me and could help me. But fear that the people already in my life would treat me horribly kept me from doing that. The fear got worse when I started questioning my gender identity. I heard even more disapproving words from the people around me. I got called slurs that I wouldn't dare repeat to anyone else now. I got called slurs when I wasn't even out. Imagine what would happen to me if I actually was. While I was exploring and finding ways to be myself, I had to suppress what I was really feeling inside. I was scared to bring up the limited things I did know, in fear I would be ridiculed for knowing too much. I didn't want to be a letdown or an embarrassment to the people who believed in me and the people who loved me. I struggled with these conflicting thoughts. I didn't know what I wanted, or what people wanted me to be, or what I was meant to do. I really internalized those homophobic and transphobic ideas. I had developed this deep sense of otherness, and I felt like I had no one to confide in. I was really lost in some sort of metaphorical cloud. Looking back, I wasn't being othered because other people were shutting me out. It wasn't other people anymore. They weren't the main problem. I had taken in so much of what I was taught, so much of what I had seen of gay and trans people who were out and were suffering, so much negativity that I was denying myself love. When all the representation you see is negative, it really gets to you. I dealt with depression, even though I never really talked about it with anyone or sought out help. I had pretty morbid thoughts then too. I often thought about just ending it. I didn't know if there was a way out of the situation I was in, the one I was seemingly born into and had no chance of avoiding. I didn't feel like I was destined for anything anymore. All I felt was the feeling of being overwhelmed. Everything I knew about the world and myself was coming down on top of me. and I struggled to keep myself up. I had a very toxic relationship with my own identity. For a long time, I spent every night trying to convince myself I was wrong. I wanted, so desperately, to be wrong. I masked my insecurities by becoming my own enemy. I tried to compensate for my internal dialogue that told me I was queer by being overly hateful, angry, and serious. I repeated the same opinions and attitudes that I was taught to believe. I wore that different personality during the day, but come night, I was stuck with myself and the thoughts I was trained to despise. The moment I started seeing people who were comfortable and proud of their identity, something changed. I started to be okay with what I was feeling, and I let go of the act that I made to protect myself. It wasn't an easy process, but I started to be more open about talking about how I was feeling to friends that I trusted. Eventually, I did feel comfortable enough to come out. Thankfully, what I experienced wasn't hate or judgment like I thought it would be. I was actually fine. But something else happened that I really didn't expect. After coming out and talking about what I was going through, people around me started saying they felt the same way too. Other people, right next to me this whole time, were going through the exact same things I was, and we were all just waiting for a sign that it was okay to be ourselves. We were all just waiting to feel represented in the right way. I figured out that when you see yourself represented in a positive way, it really does make a difference. I was way more assured and confident in my identity, and so was everyone else around me. Of course, life wasn't perfect. I still had some of those internalized biases that were forced on me. But overall, things were finally looking up. Representation matters. It's what helped me, and many other young, gay, queer, and trans people become more aware and confident of their true identities. And it's important that we continue to represent the community for the sake of another fearful young kid who, just like me, is struggling. We need to feel represented in order to feel pride in our identities. And that's why I, finally, can speak for myself.